She was a big activist and loved supporting her local charities and community, and she was also a regular face at Belfast Pride. She even campaigned for better services for those living with diabetes in Northern Ireland, something which she had dealt with herself since the age of 3. Her best friend said she was tiny and gentle, but when it came to things she was passionate about, she could be the loudest person in the room. She was in a relationship with 33-year-old Stephen McCullough, and they had just found out that Natalie was pregnant. Although they had only been together for a few months, Bernadette said the pair were really in love and couldn't wait to meet their little one. Natalie had told her mum and dad about the baby, but was going to surprise the rest of her family on Christmas Day with the news. This would be her parents' first grandchild, and the first niece or nephew for her brothers. It was a really special time for everyone. On December 18th, 2022, she spent the day with her parents and her dog River, cheering on Argentina, who were playing France in the World Cup final. She was in no rush to leave and had had a lovely evening with her parents. Bernadette described her as very content. A baby on the way, Christmas around the corner, a great job, and she was about to have some much-needed time off. However, Natalie did have a shift the next day, and as much as she wanted to stay and talk, she bundled River along with a load of Christmas wrapping paper into her car. She turned and said, "Mummy, I'll see you Monday or Tuesday. Come on, River, let's go and see the cats." They waved her off and she drove back home to the Silverwood Green area of Lurgan, where she lived with River and her 2 cats. Once home, she briefly tuned into social media, where she saw her boyfriend had posted a status about doing a big Christmas live stream on YouTube.
Hello, friendos. I started YouTube in 2010, and back then it was very straightforward. You made a video, you uploaded a video, people either watched it or they didn't. And if people did watch it, they liked it, they subscribed. That was it. It was great.
Over the years, he had amassed almost 40,000 subscribers. He would often upload videos of himself gaming, giving reviews of products and TV shows, talking about all manner of electronics and gadgets, and showing off his extensive array of collectibles. His channel was a big part of his life, and this was his first live stream in almost a year. Natalie liked his post and he sent her a text saying, "Wish me luck." She replied and said, "I might have a peek at your live stream later." She then fed the pets and started winding down for the night. The following morning, alarmingly, Natalie didn't turn up for work, and she wasn't answering her phone. As the hours ticked by and it was soon late and dark, after such a lovely day with her family, the lack of communication was very unexpected. At 10 p.m. that night, with still nothing from Natalie, Stephen, who lived about a 20-minute drive away, decided to pop over. With her being pregnant and the potential of something being wrong, the concern had mounted quickly. No sooner had Stephen entered her home, he was on the phone to the authorities. There was blood everywhere. Natalie had been viciously attacked and had been dead for some time. Natalie's younger brother Niall answered the phone to their dad at 5:30 a.m. He knew nothing good would be coming at this time, but hearing his mother screaming that his sister was dead in the background was an out-of-body feeling. They had to officially identify her, and Noel said his daughter's injuries were so bad he couldn't even see her face. An autopsy showed Natalie had been struck with a blunt object, beaten, strangled, stabbed multiple times, had broken bones and was covered in defensive wounds. She had been dead for around a day, having been attacked late the previous night, and 2 neighbours would later report that they had heard what they now realised was a scream at around 9 p.m. An autopsy was also able to determine that Natalie was carrying a baby boy, a boy she would have called Dean. She was just 3 days away from the scan that would have told her this, a scan that she and Bernadette had been planning to go to together.
Detectives from the Major Investigation Team have now launched a murder investigation following the death of Natalie McNally in Lurgan. This follows the results of the post-mortem. The 32-year-old died a violent death, having been stabbed a number of times, and there are signs of defensive injuries. She was murdered at her home in the Silverwood Green area of the town, and evidence now suggests that she was murdered on the night of Sunday, the 18th of December. Officers were called to the property along with colleagues from the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service. Sadly, Natalie was pronounced dead at the scene. It is distressing to add that Natalie was in fact 15 weeks pregnant. This fatal attack, which happened in her own home, has therefore resulted in a double tragedy. The death of a mother-to-be along with her unborn baby. I am asking anyone with information about this murder to please come forward. In particular, I am appealing to motorists who were travelling on the Killen Road, Lurgan, on Sunday the 18th of December between 8:45 p.m. and 9:45 p.m. and who may have captured dash cam footage of this journey.
Given that Stephen had walked in and been the one to find her, officers were cautious and arrested him. He said he was home all evening, showing them his live stream, which lasted from 6 p.m. until midnight.
Hey, and we're live. Hello, everyone. Yeah, a little bit out of the blue, this, isn't it? So, hello to all on this glorious Sunday evening. So I just thought, why not? I'm gonna do a live stream because this day next week is Christmas. So what more could you want for Christmas other than an evening with your old pal Stephen? I wanted to do a live stream, and I've been wanting to do one for quite some time now. Only trouble is there's a couple of elements, shall we say, that have been preventing me from doing anything. Mostly it has been work, and it has been stuff in my private life. It's also been the fact that this computer is on its last legs, the fact that I've had so many YouTube videos to work through. It's all been a bit of a nightmare.
While some of it was a blur because he had been drinking throughout, he hadn't left and he hadn't spoken to Natalie during this time. He told them he had been cutting out drinking as Natalie was now avoiding alcohol, so it was in solidarity with her. But as it was a Christmas streaming special, he decided to, in his words, get shit-faced. He fell asleep almost as soon as the stream ended and was pretty hungover and sleepy most of the next day. Who on earth would want to do this to Natalie, they asked. Stephen told them her ex-partner had recently been harassing her, and it was the only name that came to mind. His live stream was a solid alibi and he could be accounted for. And with this, as well as giving them a name to look at, Stephen was released without charge, and the Police Service of Northern Ireland, also known as the PSNI, was saying he was not a suspect. In all the commotion with Stephen coming into the house and the noise, Natalie's beloved dog River was so frightened, he bolted out of the front door and ran into the road, being hit by a car. Thankfully, he did pull through and was swiftly taken to Noel and Bernadette's, where he would carry on living from that point. Although the police couldn't completely rule out a random intruder, it seemed very unlikely. There had been no forced entry and nothing had been stolen. They believed that Natalie had not yet got round to locking her door and her killer had just walked in without knocking. This would be a very strange and risky thing for a chance intruder to do. Due to the brutality of the scene, her killer would almost certainly have had blood on them and would have had to wash off or dispose of the clothing and shoes, so maybe there had been something dumped somewhere. Officers started combing through the area around the Silverwood Golf Club, which backed onto Kiln Road, directly behind Natalie's home. Following Stephen's arrest and release, a second unnamed man in his 40s was also arrested, but was quickly released on bail pending further inquiries. Vigils were being held in the quiet cul-de-sac where she lived, and huge rallies with her family and Stephen in attendance were held.
I just want to say that whatever difference of opinions there are in this country, we know there's no difference of opinion. Everybody wants to see an end to violence against women and girls, and everybody in society has to redouble our efforts to end violence against women and girls in memory of our sister Natalie. So thank you all very much.
More than 1,000 people attended a rally in Lurgan Park, and Natalie's case was spreading through the media. Her favourite team, Everton Football Club, even displayed a tribute to her during their matches, and a personalised stone was laid in their new grounds, something her family said would have meant everything to her, because she could now always be in one of her favourite places.
I would like to appeal to my sister's killer to do a decent thing and confess to her murder. Nats, as we called her, was the only girl in our family, and we treated her like a princess. I cannot actually put into words the heartache we're experiencing. She was the life and soul of our family, and we are heartbroken she will not be sitting around a table with us this Christmas Day or any day. Nats really was the best sister ever, and such a lovely person. She had so many friends and would have done anything for anyone. She had a heart of gold. I'm appealing on behalf of our family to bring any information to police or Crime Stoppers to help them put Nat's killer behind bars.
The killer's still walking the street. We need everybody to go again. We need everybody to think again. Think back to the night. Think back to the night of the World Cup final. What were you doing? Think if you have any CCTV or anything from that time. And even to the days after, is there anything unusual? Anyone acting suspiciously? Because we need everyone on our side to go again. We're grateful for what everyone's done, but we need everyone again to think back and come forward with anything at all.
On Christmas Day, Natalie's family had a wake, and a day later her funeral was held. In her coffin, her family placed photos of Natalie and her pets, and the bibs she had just bought for baby Dean. Stephen asked to have 20 minutes alone with her to say his goodbyes privately. While there is no easy time for people to say goodbye to someone, to have just lost Natalie and Dean in such an awful way around a time of year like Christmas, it created even more of a dark cloud. As Christmas came and went, Bernadette said her daughter's presents just sat under the tree. They couldn't bear to move them or put anything away. They were just frozen in time in a nightmare. The investigation was becoming extensive. Hundreds of house-to-house inquiries had already happened, and over 4,000 hours of CCTV footage was being gone through. Several cars had been seized and officers were stopping people asking for their dashcam footage. Crime Stoppers had also offered a reward of up to £20,000. It soon rolled over into the new year, and on the 5th of January, the PSNI said they had some tapes that they wanted to release to the public. Tapes which showed who they strongly believed was Natalie's killer.
3,000 hours of CCTV footage have been gathered, but the public's attention is still drawn to one clip, showing the main suspect entering and leaving Silverwood Green, where Natalie lived, on the night she died.
In the footage, a man could be seen entering Natalie's street at 8:52 p.m. on the night she was killed. Then at 9:30 p.m, a little over half an hour later, he was spotted coming back out and walking the same way he came in. He was wearing white shoes and a hat and carrying a rucksack. More CCTV from another camera, which they did not release to the public, showed the same figure walking straight up to Natalie's house. They felt the way in which he walked up to her home showed he clearly knew the area, knew Natalie, and was there for one thing. It was a targeted and planned attack. The calmness with the way the man had walked back down the street was deeply unnerving.
Our investigation into her horrific murder is continuing, and I have several appeals to make today. I'm still keeping an open mind, but my main line of inquiry is that the murder was committed by someone that Natalie knew and indeed was comfortable allowing into her home. I would like to direct people's attention to the CCTV footage that we previously released. I believe this shows Natalie's killer on her way into her home at Silverwood Green at 8:52 p.m. on Sunday the 18th of December. Our efforts to identify the man captured in the footage remains ongoing, and I would appeal to anyone who believes that they recognise this person to get in touch. Someone must know who he is, and I would appeal to you to do the decent thing and to get in touch with me. Do you really want to protect a man who can kill a woman and her unborn baby?
And if the person did do that, you know, there has to be someone protecting it.
Yes, you have to be. Do you do that and go home and act normally? Like, do you really? I don't know. I think somebody's bound to have some inkling. And what loyalty? You can't have a loyalty to a monster who brutally murdered my Natalie. Like, it's just not. It's not. You know, are you going to live with that for the rest of your life? You know, without coming forward.
And would you want it on your conscience if this person killed someone else? If he could kill an innocent wee girl like our Natalie, he could do it again. And if you don't give this person up, who could be the next person he kills, you know? And that'll be in your conscience for the rest of your life, knowing you could have prevented this.
Authorities had also located what they believed to be the murder weapon, a knife that had come from inside Natalie's house, not something the killer had brought with them. A marigold glove print was found in blood inside her house too. It was now 6 weeks since Natalie had been killed, and authorities just didn't have anything concrete. The name that Stephen had given them had gone nowhere, and there were no more tips coming in about the CCTV. There was no evidence to suggest that this ex-boyfriend, the person who Stephen had accused, was in Lurgan at the time of her murder, and that that person was with someone else at the time. A total of 3 arrests had now been made, but no charges filed. There was now a fear that so much time had passed, her killer could long have fled Northern Ireland and gone elsewhere, and if that was the case, they were looking at an almost impossible task. Instead of continuing to move the searches for clues further afield, they decided to focus back in and closer to home. Detectives said so much of it was down to waiting for forensics to come back and going through people's devices with a fine-tooth comb. One detective said, "A good percentage of our investigations were able to resolve in a relatively short period of time, often within 7 or 8 days. I can't go into specific details about why this investigation is so difficult, but it is a complex investigation." Something about a certain person's devices had rung an alarm bell. Stephen McCullough, Natalie's partner. His behaviour in general since Natalie had been killed was odd to say the least. After his release, he had not once asked the detectives for an update on her case, not once chased them for any information, and, quite frankly, had shown zero interest in getting anything solved.
Hello YouTube viewers and random Doctor Who fans. Yes, the time is finally upon us. After years of B&M Frankensteinian mashup figure sets, Character Options have at long last released something new, the Regeneration set from the power of the Doctor. It brings us an updated 13th Doctor figure, wearing an outfit she technically wore for all of 2 minutes of screen time, but hey, new is new. Plus we get...
He had also refused to give detectives the full details about Natalie's house when he got there, what he saw and what happened before he called for help. Natalie's family didn't really know Stephen and had only met him a handful of times, but after Natalie died, they described him as ingratiating himself within them. Suddenly, he was around all the time. They had his devices seized and his computer was now highlighted as something that would blow the case wide open. His alibi for that night was, of course, the live stream.
I just realised I'm literally going to be drinking and driving. In the game, by the way, I'm not leaving the house tonight, so, yeah, in the game I will be drunk while driving in the game. I'll be drunk in real life, I'll be driving in the game. Just keep myself in the good books, shall we say?
And during the 6 hours he was online, he had been playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Police force that we have lost over the last 12 years is just fucking frightening, and no wonder crime is on the rise. That's why I like sticking to just doing crimes in a video game. Keeps things simple, mate.
His stream was also called Violent Night Christmas Live Gaming Stream, wearing a Christmas hat and drinking, his description box read. Celebrate the most joyous time of year by watching a drunk mash buttons on a controller as if he's some sort of expert, then go mental after failing miserably, all in real time. Merry Christmas. But this 6-hour live stream he had done on December the 18th was in fact not live at all. It had actually been pre-recorded late on December 14th and had been set to play on YouTube between 6 PM and midnight on December 18th. And just 5 minutes after it went live on YouTube, Stephen had deleted the pre-recorded video off his computer. He had frequently apologised to his viewers, saying he was unable to interact with them in the chat because his computer was having technical issues, further creating the illusion that he was live when actually they were watching a video that had already been made.
In fact, I'm still live. Good. Right, yeah, so I need to get my anxiety about whether or not the stream will crash just out of the way, otherwise it'll affect the whole bloody thing. To be honest, I'm genuinely not looking at the live chat, so I don't know if people have picked up on that or not. But, yeah, I think I kind of fucked that last mission. The worst part is I can't even use my phone to check the fucking live stream comments either, because I'm pretty sure that will fuck with my internet and fuck with this stream. So that's good, isn't it?
The more experts watched, the more frightening everything became, and the more obvious it was that the lengths he had gone to falsify his alibi was chilling.
That'll do me. I've got work tomorrow as well. And again, it's my final week, so work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off Thursday, off Friday, off Christmas Day, off Boxing Day, off a couple of days after that, back into work on Wednesday, then off until New Year's. So it'll be enough time to rest, relax, spend time with my loved ones. Actually, I think it'll be a really fucking good Christmas this year. But yes, sorry, I'm getting horribly distracted. Yeah, that's physics. That's what would happen in the real world. Abso-fucking-notly. Abso-fucking-notly.
During a break in the video at around 9:15 p.m, instead of the title card that said live stream back soon, as it had in the previous breaks, the screen was replaced momentarily with a photo of the James Bond film No Time to Die. This would have been the time that Natalie was being killed, and the same time that neighbours had heard the scream. They had worked back through the CCTV as well, and now had more than enough evidence to prove that the person on the footage on her street was Stephen. Although they didn't release this to the public, the cameras showed that before he walked onto her street, he could be seen at a bus stop at Kingsway, Dunmurray, where he had waited for 15 minutes. He had the hood of his coat pulled down and a mask on his face. He was carrying an Asda bag for life, and as he got onto the bus, he dropped some money onto the ground. He removed a black glove, which showed a yellow marigold glove underneath, gloves that later matched the print of blood in Natalie's home. During the bus ride, he was sat very still, only moving his mask slightly to take a sip of a can of Coke. He got off the bus with the Asda bag, walking for a while and carrying on past the railway station near Natalie's home. Then at 8:42 p.m, he was seen on another camera getting closer to Natalie's street. He disappeared for 10 minutes and then returned, this time without the Asda bag, and instead with a black rucksack. What happened to the bag or what was in it is still unknown. After he left her street at 9:30 p.m, he was seen again on various cameras walking into Lurgan Town Centre, before approaching a phone-a-cab taxi that had been ordered via an app. The driver had picked him up outside a pub and was supposed to drop him off not far from there, but Stephen had told him he needed to go to a different address than the one he had booked for, something about his mom being ill. Detectives spoke to the taxi driver and he confirmed that he had dropped Stephen off at what would turn out to be his address. This was at 11:13 p.m. And at 11:13 p.m, he was still, he claimed, live on YouTube. 3 minutes after he was dropped outside his house, Stephen's phone manually swiped open for the first time in more than 5 hours. The taxi driver was easily able to identify him as well. The police had been keeping this all very close to their chests. They had already released Stephen once, so they needed to be absolutely sure they had everything before they arrested him again.
I think I'll wrap up this stream with none of you watching at all. Just by saying, Merry Christmas, everyone. It's a time that we look forward to and we get excited about whenever we're young. And then as we get older, we get much more cynical and stuff like that. And then we reach a stage where we realize it's not about us anymore. It's about the younger generation, and it's about keeping that love alive and passing it on. And I think that's something I'm looking forward to doing more than anything else, really. I think the important thing to take away from it is to use it as a time, not for what we receive, but what we can give in terms of presents, in terms of love, in terms of sex. It's just been one of those nights, hasn't it? But yes, I think the message rings true that Christmas, it's not about the shopping, it's not about the lights and the tints and all that crap. It's literally just about having some time off to enjoy spending time with the people that you love. So until next time, everyone, thank you for watching. Good night.
On February 2nd, 2023, to the shock of everyone, Natalie's partner and father of her unborn baby was officially charged with murder. His lawyer applied for bail, saying that he had had to pre-record the stream because his computer was not working, and it's actually a fairly normal thing for people to do. It was argued that pre-recording something doesn't make someone a killer. His lawyer said, you still need to be there, you still need to be activating with the equipment to stream it. He said that any connection of Stephen to the person in the CCTV was minimal at best. He comes before the court with no record. He comes before the court with ties to the community and with his own address. I would ask this court to find that he is a suitable candidate for bail, his lawyer argued. But despite his pleas, the judge denied his bail. She said the risk of further offending, if he can carry out an attack like this, if the police case is right, then who knows what else he is capable of. And the planning involved and the knowledge of technology, which is far above my head, but I assume that also means there is potential to interfere with the investigation in a way that someone like me could not do. The prosecution and police said that the degree of planning and level of sophistication shown, along with the premeditation, deceit, and efforts to conceal, is something that courts in this jurisdiction will rarely have seen. It also later came out that Stephen had left his phone in Natalie's family's house to secretly record them for almost an hour. Likely, they think, to see what, if anything, they knew, and what their suspicions were, so he could always stay one step ahead. But why? The prosecution could only speculate on the motives, and they still cannot say anything with certainty. But they know that Stephen had access to Natalie's phone, knowing her passcode. She had allegedly been in contact with a former boyfriend on December 15th, the prosecution barrister said. The prosecution suggests that sexualised contact with this individual, and indeed others over a period of time, is the catalyst for what occurred to Miss McNally. On the morning of the day of her death, Stephen had unlocked her phone 9 times to look at her messages, go on her WhatsApp and her Twitter. By this point, Stephen was already planning his attack. He had already pre-recorded the video, just a matter of hours after he first saw any messages on December the 15th. He staged the stream, the timings, and made sure to leave all of these chilling references throughout. The prosecution said the devil is in the detail. The detail of this video is chilling, brazenly taunting and leaving messages behind. Now, while Stephen would eventually admit he was not live streaming on the night of the murder, he still denied the murder itself and maintained he was drinking on his own in his house and fell asleep. He entered a plea of not guilty.
Natalie McNally's family and friends were in court today to watch her former partner, Stephen McCullough, deny murdering the 32-year-old mum-to-be. Stephen McCullough of Woodland Gardens in Lisburn stood in the dock, and when the charge of murder was put to him, he replied, not guilty. A trial date was set for the 9th of September and is expected to last 3 to 4 weeks. During the court hearing, a request was also made for the trial to be held in Belfast because the case is heavily CCTV and technology based. As 33-year-old Stephen McCullough was led out of the dock in handcuffs, he didn't look at Natalie's family, including her parents, in the public gallery. The case will be reviewed again in March.
In January 2024, it was announced the earliest time his trial could start would be September 2024, with the judge calling it the most complex case she had ever seen. Police said the lengths that Stephen had gone to plan what he had done, cover it up, and give himself an alibi was staggering. He stood with her family at her funeral, grieving alongside them, while secretly recording them, and all while knowing exactly what had happened. A strategy for tackling violence against women and girls was due for publication in Northern Ireland after this happened, with the government saying Northern Ireland has the joint highest female homicide rate in Europe, and the number of women murdered in their own home doubled during lockdown. Natalie's family continue to work with other people that have gone through similar things, campaign and keep Natalie's name alive in the media. Noel said his worst fear in life was always one of his children passing away before him. Bernadette said Natalie would always say, "Wise up, would you, mammy? Just get on with it." Her daughter was a no-fuss and no-drama person, and her get-on-with-it attitude inspired her to take everything as it comes, as hard as that might be. There was nothing that Natalie couldn't handle, and Bernadette always remembers that in her darkest moments.